reiterate some points. But the basal level, right, if you look at it, it's about what is the value of human life. If I had to ask you today, what is the value of human life, what would your answer be? Anybody here? Value of human life.
Living every moment.
Okay. When I say value of human life, I'm talking in economic terms. It's not quantifiable. Interestingly, human life, a lot of studies have been, please go and Google this, you will find very interesting research being done on it. Human life is valued at 8 million. Wow, right? Okay. But sadly, we don't value human beings. Okay, and I want to start with that as a basal level because that builds this word called relationship. And that's why when I came and did this activity, one of the things I want to get a grasp, because tomorrow you're going to go and become HR professionals, is human life is valuable. Okay, that's at the basal level. Now, just to build on that and picking up points and just to wrap, there are 4 V's that I see is so important that can really bring the new paradigm. Technology, of course, there are things that are changing the paradigm, that are bringing about the wings of change. But these 4 V's always stand together. The first V is, just quickly, is vision. And Deloitte did a study last year, and today we're going to have a lot of millennial workforce coming into the workplace. And as Bharatan pointed out, as England pointed out, with the surveys that are trying to do and get a grasp of what their employees are thinking about the organization, one of the key things that Deloitte study underlines is millennials leave when they don't find meaning in their work. And meaning, part of meaning is the values that the company follows, right? And the vision that the company upholds. So today, when you look at startups growing, startups are beautiful windows of how great cultures can be built. And if you look at the cultures being built, it's phenomenal. And they have a great vision, and because of the great vision, they're able to draw amazing talent. The talent comes, the talent is retained, and they're able to really go together, do something phenomenal. And this one word you keep hearing called disruption, which is not done by large organizations, sadly. Why? What is there in their DNA which is not there in large organizations? The word called vision. 2, I already mentioned the point, values. If I were to ask you today, what are your top 3 core values? And if you don't have answer to it, I would really recommend today evening to go and think and really find your core values. There are ways to find core values, please Google. Because as much as we talk from here and saying that we look for people who fit our culture, you need to know what culture you belong to. And if you know your core values really well, it really helps. The third thing, which is about what if the culture is violated. Then third V is violation. If there's a violation, what does the company do as a consequence? What does the organization do? Is it something that everybody knows? This is coming more from a point of view of, we'll go back and look at top 10 sexual harassments that have happened in India, the cases. Not one, not even one, has been dealt properly. This is a sad state of affairs that we are in. So, how do we deal with it? What is the outcome of it? Because at the end of the day, are we placing too much value on talent over human being, over people? These are questions that we need to really ponder and ask. Because as much as we're trying to put it under the carpet, one day it will come to bite us. It will. Because that's what today's generation is looking for, which is that this company is aligned to the values, right? And finally, it's about, is the company really vibrant? And when I say vibrance, it's not about employee perks. It's not about the kind of employee engagement that you do. I was just talking to somebody driving on a car. They're saying, for this Pongal, we gave 2 lakh budget to an employee engagement company. They came, now the single Pongal, they said, they took that money and went. That's not going to, doing all these activities is not going to really bring the vibrance. I loved one point that Bharatan pointed out, which was, if we are doing this activity, there's something wrong in the first place. That means the culture is not right. And so I would want you to really go back and ponder and think on these core issues. And I want to wrap up with one quick, case study so that you understand this. There's a company called Buffer, and this company, they really messed up with their service, okay? But the way they dealt that whole process, it's a beautiful case study. The way they, told the whole world, the way they tweeted, the way they had a live blog about it, saying that this is exactly what's happened, to all the customers. That's one end of the stakeholder. To the employees who were really bearing the brunt of it, they were helping them, they were giving the live updates to them, they were showing, okay, this is what we need to be doing and all of that. The end of the case study is this Buffer app had to fire so many employees. But the best thing about Buffer was all the employees knew that they were going to go out. It was not firing, it was a farewell. Because they knew that the time had come for these people to move out because of what happened. But the beauty of the whole story is that everybody walked out. And it was a beautiful story. You need to go check this out. And so, which means it can be managed. Okay? And sometimes we try to create processes and systems and all of that, which comes to bite. And so whenever it is an admin issue, whenever it is a tech issue, you can have forums to address it. When it's a people issue, people address it. So let's move away from this whole idea of trade union to building tribes. If you have to replace trade unions, it's build tribes, amazing tribes, where we all stick together because of the values, because of the vision. If there's a violation, we know how to deal with family, okay? And finally, we have a very vibrant, kind of community that we live together. And I think that I'm not giving you a proper prescriptive way of doing it for the lack of time, but I'm just throwing some seeds here so that you pick these seeds, and as you go tomorrow to the corporate world, you'll be able to take this and really run it, right? So going back to the first activity that we did after the session, everybody here is valuable, everybody is different, but let's learn to value that and then celebrate that. And I think is the foundation of influence, because you can build tactics over it, you can have strategies over it, but the foundation still remains foundation. Human beings really matter. Thank you. Is there a possibility for trade union in IT sector? I think this was answered. The short answer is yes. What is the way the IT sector is going to handle the issue of job insecurity?
Okay, I already talked to you about why job insecurity. It's not that companies like to fire people or lay them off. Companies are in a particular situation where there are role redundancies and which force them to lay people off. Now, the only aspect which employees can take responsibility for and move forward is to constantly reskill and upskill themselves, right? I talked about moving from one line of business into the other. So if you constantly reskill and upskill yourself, when there is an opportunity for redeployment, you will be ready. So the first assessment that we do before laying anybody off is to understand what skills he or she has. If that skill is available in another line of business, we immediately try to redeploy the person in the next line of business. So layoff is just not something which you should look at as an employer's fault or responsibility. You as an employee will have to start finding ways and means to combat that situation when you land right there. So we are asking employees to sign up to this crowdsourcing platform which I talked about earlier, to constantly reskill and upskill them. The only way that you can succeed in your career is two things. One is to add value to the job that you're doing, and the other one is to stay relevant to your company's growth objectives. I hope I answered your question.
There's one more question here, which is, do you think buzzwords like analytics, robotics, and HR is overhyped, which is just a way, of other technical advances and common sense but portrayed in a complex way. Honest answer needed.
No, but thanks, Jyoti. So, but before I go to this one, quick 2 lines or 3 lines on job insecurity. One thing I'd like to share here is there is nothing called job security at all. My mom was a government servant, doctor, medical servant. Her elder sister was a pediatrician, standing. Government servant. And they will always say, you know, when I got my first job, so you're settled now. I never understood. I still don't understand. One thing you need to tell people is their security is a function of their capability. It is not a function of how well the company performs and does not perform. So, short, sweet, to the point, this is what I get. Anybody's security is a function of their capability. So you see a teacher in a school, they can go to another school and teach. It is because their job is secure in a different place. It's a function of their capability. Okay? The more advanced their capability becomes, the more secure they become, the more options they have. Okay? So, you know, there's a nice proverb. The rich people are not people who have money. Rich people are people who have a lot of options. And that is very true. Even for talent, it holds true. If one individual can cross-functionally go around competent, talent acquisition, employee relations, all of that, has hardcore experience, some on-site experience, some offshore, some within India experience, that person has more security. Okay. Coming to this one, do you think the buzzwords, honest answer needed? HR analytics, robotics, overhype? Yes, I think it's overhype. Right? You guys really pulled a rug from under her. She's the only person who's clapping. Yeah. It is overhyped. I'll tell you why. You know, earlier there was HR analytics. In those days, when the computer was not invented. It's called Kanak Pustakam. Ama, pakkavar. பெரிய பெரிய பிஸ்னஸ்லாம் அந்த காலத்தில் நடந்திருக்கு. சூப்பராக கணக்கு வச்சுப்பாங்க. பெரிய அந்த நோட் வச்சுருப்பாங்க. எல்லாம் இருக்கும். இதான் அனாலிட்டிக்ஸ். அவர் உட்காந்து ஒரு பீடா போடுவார் ஓனரு. சொல்லுப்பா அப்படின்னு ஒரு மைண்டில் பண்ணுவார். அதான் அனாலிட்டிக்ஸ். இப்போ ஒரு டூல் வந்து உங்களுக்கு காட்டுது. There's no this thing. But here is where is the key for HR analytics. And we addressed a session on HR analytics. 3 days back, Arga Rajan conducted a seminar on HR analytics at Satyam Grand. So I'll quickly tell you without wasting time. I have been the culprit. I did so much time. The analytics thing is you need to understand tools. They are tools and not rules. First thing, they are tools and not rules. Second thing, HR people need to walk with a lot of confidence when they go and meet the CEO or the business leader. You can't go like a postman. The HR people into the actual go a postman. It's not honest answer. சும்மா இந்த ஃபேன்சி இந்த ஐடி இண்டஸ்ட்ரி இந்த இதெல்லாம் கதை என்னன்னா யாராவது பேப்பர் போட்டாங்கன்னா ஒரு இமெயில் வரும். அதை வச்சு நோண்டிக்கிட்டு அடுத்தது அவனை காரியம் பண்றது எல்லாம் பண்றது. அதுல 4 டூல் இருக்கும். There are 4 tools to. ஆமா. உள்ள வரும்போது அவனை வந்து சும்மா குஷி பண்றதுக்கு அது ஒரு 2 டூல் இருக்கும். ஓகே, அட்வான்ஸ்ட் HR டெக்னாலஜி. bullshit actually. What's the use if you have technology, you don't have technology? There are so many startups where people are rushing to go and work. They have no technology, nothing. Right? They just sit across the board in collaborative mode and they solve problems. So HR analytics is important. It is overhyped. And they're just tools and not rules. And most importantly, when you work with data, remember to tell your CEO or business leader that you have all data available on people and that your opinion is not just opinion. Out of an HR analytics dashboard, your opinion is mixing it up with the company's vision, the culture, where the business wants to go. That is how you have to see HR analytics. You can't just see it as, you know, a bunch of Excel sheets and, you know, graphs and all of that and throw it to people, right? And I think that is where HR will move to boardrooms. Otherwise, HR will never move to boardrooms. Typically, a business leader will take the report from you and ask you to leave the room. When that happens, you know you have no respect in the organization, right? It is very silently conveyed to you. And you will think that I am having a comfortable job. That's where the trouble will start. When they start engaging with you, asking you questions like, hey, can you give me a solution? Then you know you're moving the needle on HR analytics. That's all it is.
Okay, this is a question directed to me because I made a mention of long service in IT being 5 years. So the question is, what role do you foresee the ER and IT industry in getting prepared to face this? As long as you can add value to the employee and create opportunities for them, they will stay with you. We do stay interviews these days as against exit interviews. When employees leave the organization, we do exit interviews and they tell us, I've been stuck in this project, in this account for the last 5 years, it's not adding any value to me, so I need to go. So most often, people leave because of career prospects, growth opportunities. These are the two reasons that if an organization can address that, this is a question answered. Right? The next one is a very difficult question. What is the best way of firing an employee without feeling guilty? There is no best way to fire an employee, right? So we had a chat before coming in, and most of us keep doing the firing business. We've been doing it for a very long time. It's very difficult. No matter how many times you do it, you still feel it, right? It's a difficult thing to do. Sometimes when you have valid reasons like a performance issue or a disciplinary issue, it's easier. But when it comes to role redundancy and you have to actually tell him that it's no fault of his, but he still needs to go, it's difficult. So I don't think you can ever do a firing without feeling guilty, right?
If you're feeling guilty, it's good. Till you don't feel guilty, something is wrong.
Something's terribly wrong with them. Many times I haven't felt guilty. I felt nice firing a lot of folks who never were meant to be there first of all. I always used to think, how did the person get hired in the first place? And so, how do you see the social media influence in managing your employees in business? How do we handle it? This handwriting is so nice. I'm thinking, how did she manage introducing me when I met somebody? Pretty bad. Right? Glassdoor reviews, Twitter, all that. How do we handle it? See, I was among the first in my organization. I'm very active on WhatsApp. Rajan knows that. Joseph knows that. A lot of people who network with me. I run my own WhatsApp HR group. No nonsense. No good morning, good evening messages. Nothing religious, nothing political. Only for Jallikattu, we had a special 3-day window when people could express themselves and we closed it. Once it was over, we were happy that we succeeded. I was among the first in KLA Temcor. And you'll be surprised, Americans were running scared of WhatsApp. They were saying, BP, are you sure you want to actually have it for work collaboration? I said, I'm confident with my team, so let me try. And this was cross-cultural team, India and all of that. You will not believe. Generally, if I send an email to somebody asking what's the status on something, there is a certain SLA that I have in my mind. It will take so much time for me to get a response. When I put it on WhatsApp, it's like I get four responses from 4 people, qualitative, quantitative responses. And then we're having a lot of fun with jokes and other stuff. We keep the line very clear, we don't offend other people. So I think it is very healthy and I think it should be encouraged. That's my own personal feeling. I've seen productivity go up like crazy. And somebody told me, I still remember the India president came to my cabin, pulled me up, we went into a conference room, pulled the IT head and said, there's a lot of people reading newspapers for a long duration because internet is free in the office. Regional newspapers, some people Telugu newspapers or Malayalam or whatever newspaper. And so the IT head's immediate response was, okay, we'll just close off internet for everybody. And so I disagreed and so did the country head. Luckily for me, he saw the sense of it. I said, no, you're not going to close down the internet. Just fire the managers of those folks. Because if they are free to read newspaper for 1 hour, and if productivity is not great in that team, I think the manager needs to get fired. So we called a meeting of managers and said, here are the IPs from where we see extreme usage. What value are these people adding? What kind of work have you assigned to them? So it's very important for you to address the problem and not the symptom, right? Sometimes I put a bandage, I'm addressing the symptom, I'm really not addressing the problem. Yeah. I'll answer the third question here and then I'll pass this on to that side. How to reduce attrition rate in ITES companies? This I'm answering because I had the experience of doing a project actually with a colleague called Rafi, and we did a Six Sigma project to reduce attrition. It's 100 scope. Our goal was 50% reduction in attrition. All of you are going crazy with that number. Okay, so I have to tell you, whenever I say 50% reduction, I have to tell what's the baseline, right? So the attrition was around 28-29%. We brought it to around 15%, 14%. We brought that within a period of around 10 months, 6 to 10 months. I'll tell you what we actually did. We changed the behavior of managers. These are young kids doing million-dollar transactions, banking BPO, and they would get called up and people would go crazy when they make a mistake. But what we found out when we were going deep into the study was, whenever they did something really nice, whenever they met a day where they made no mistake, nobody was tapping their back. There was no public recognition, instant public recognition. So we created something called Smart Work, Smart Reward, worked with the competent team, put up neat structure, and the behavior totally changed. So now people were, their entire mindset was not, I should not make a mistake. It was, I should actually go home with a clean slate because I can look forward to some encouragement from folks. If you look at psychiatry, after the basic needs, food, clothing and shelter, the next basic need is to be what? Thank you. That's the most basic need, to be appreciated. Right? And so we worked on that and then we solved that. So I'll say ITES, not only ITES, anywhere, it's very important for you to have an instant culture of recognition.
Okay, so I'm just going to add one quick thing in the social media influence aspect of it. I mean, it is influential. Okay, the only quick note I want to add to that is, are you influenced? If you are, is it right data? So how do you know it? That's the quick note I want to just add to it. Okay, so if you can again work that out from that perspective, it really helps. So for the lack of time, others, a lot of you have given your questions. I'll ask you to meet us offline, okay, and you can take it there. Thank you so much for being an amazing audience. Let's give a clap for yourself. We believe that you will value human beings truly, okay, and make it a really amazing function. Right? As Vardhan said, move away from being a support to the core. Thank you so much. See you. Have a good night.
I request everyone to wait for them to give the mementos, please. I'm very nervous now.
What's your name?
Sam, sir. Sir, actually, I need to apologize.
I have to feel nervous, you have to feel relaxed.
So yeah, as Angeline ma'am said, it is always a challenge for the speakers to track the crowd's attention post-lunch. And if the crowd is going to be full of students, it makes it more challenging for them. So students get distracted easily, so that's why. So you can also say that catching a student's attention is as difficult as seeing Donald Trump getting elected as the President of America. And at this side, I really thank the panel members who have done a really good job as they got out each and everyone's attention with the enlightening discussion. So I request everyone to give a big round of applause for the panel members. I think I flopped it a bit. I'm really sorry about it, but I'm really sorry, sir. I didn't mean it. I later realized that I shouldn't have told it over the mic.
I really meant it when I said you should be relaxed and I should be relaxed. I was not trying to make you feel nice. That's the truth. Hey, by the way, I was telling, he was running an activity here, and then he was supposed to say, describe this day in one word. And so, Jayanti Peter ma'am, she walked towards me and asked, what's the one word for me? And I said, glad to be back in school. So that's why, here I really, my focus was to give as much. And I knew you guys would forgive me for, a little bit of extra time and all of that. And come there and tell in front of other people, it's okay, they're all one. Same alumni.
So regarding the mementos, I now request Mr. Hemakumar sir to come on the stage to give a memento to Mr. Joseph Abraham sir. Thank you, sir. I now request Ms. Mogna ma'am to come on stage to give a memento to Mr. Bharathan Praglad sir. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. I now invite Ms. Sanila to honor Angeline J. Seelan ma'am with a memento. Thank you, ma'am. We'll be dispersing for a 10-minute tea break where the tea will be served outside. So it will be